Hello guys and welcome back to yet another benchmarking video. I know there is no introductory video of me. This is because the space that I was filming in is currently being worked on right now. So I don't have access to the space and I had limited time to record and benchmark this PC. So and in today's build we have the Ryzen 5 8400F, which is a 6-core 12-thread CPU paired up with 16 gigs of DDR5 RAM, which is clocked at 6000 megahertz, paired up with the RX 6600, which has 8 gigs of VRAM. So and the motherboard that we were using is an Asus A620. Is it A620? Yeah, A620MA motherboard. So yeah, but I did notice the comments of bottlenecking, and so the thing you need to understand, if you're watching this video and you're not currently in Kenya, things are a little bit different here in that the MSRP prices that you see in the US or worldwide typically don't apply here because of, there's a lot of things that goes on, maybe inflation, tax and stuff, but generally these parts are not even that common or available in these regions. And our aim as ES Gaming is to build PCs that will help people who are very tight on budget to, just get their foot into the door. And I do believe later on they do always have the option to upgrade. Yeah, just always keep that in mind when you're watching benchmarks from this YouTube channel. So yeah, the first game that we are going to be testing here is Forza Horizon 5, and I was pretty much running the game with everything set to high. The only thing that I had set to medium is environment and geometric, environment texture quality and environment geometric quality. This is because if you leave this to high, you'll keep getting a low system memory error message. This is because the RX 600 here has 8 gigs of VRAM. So typically, if it's 8 gigs of VRAM, you really want to be minding the texture resolution, or rather the texture quality of surroundings, since the bigger, especially for like an open world game like Forza Horizon, it's obviously going to demand more VRAM. But as you can see, the RX 600 paired up with the 8400F is handling this game pretty well, and mind you, ray tracing is turned on, so I would say I was averaging an average of like 90 FPS depending on the area. With the more densely populated areas in terms of geometry, I was getting around 85ish, high 80s, and like in the open planes here you can, it's probably getting like 100 sometimes, but for the most part I was sticking around the 90 ish FPS mark. So yeah, let's move on to the next game, which is Resident Evil 4, and I was pretty much running this game with the last settings that I was running with the 3060. So pretty much everything is mostly set to high. Hair strands is on. I did forget to turn a couple of these things on, so like persistent cops and all those things, I turned them on. And the only thing that I think was low here was, I see, is rain quality. So yeah, there is a couple of things here turned to off, but for the most part the story does not change here, in that Resident Evil 4 seems to favor AMD cards, which I don't know why that's the case, but as you can see, we have some very good CPU utilization, not CPU but rather GPU's utilization, as the CPU is barely breaking any sweat trying to run this game. And as you can see, we're still maintaining a frame rate that is very playable, in that we are way above the 60 FPS mark. As you can see there, even up to like 70, which I feel like if we swap to the that is 60 in the next video, this frame rate will be a little bit lower, in that this game seems to favor AMD cards. But yeah, this game was a breeze to run. So of course, if we get into the insides of the house here, as you can see, the frame rate jumps up. So yeah, this is what I would like to consider a very playable experience from the RX 600 paired up with the 8400F. Now, I don't know how much of the RAM plays a part in performance here, because DDR5 RAM is blazing fast. So yeah, but for the most part, I'm not really seeing a very different result compared to the Ryzen 5 5600G. So let's move on to the next game, which is Cyberpunk 2077, and this game is extremely heavily CPU bound, in that, as you can see, sometimes we're even getting a higher CPU usage compared to the GPU. And this is one of those games where definitely, if this is like your first build, definitely upgrading to a higher, or rather to a more powerful processor down the line would really benefit you. And that said though, I still was able to maintain a very playable frame rate in that I was staying above 50 FPS for the most part. And sometimes you will get some 60 depending on the area you are in. Mind you, I wasn't running this game with any form of FSR because the degradation in image quality for me when it comes to using FSR in this game is really not worth it. Plus, FSR has some artifacts that makes, I don't know. I think I prefer Intel XeSS since it also seems to work with non-Intel cards. In this game, I'm not sure what's the thing there, but I mean, what's the deal? But for the most part, as you can see, I am staying around the 50-ish plus FPS, so it will feel kind of smooth, even though this is not like the most optimal way to play this game. But for the most part, the 8400F and the RX 600 in this game seem to be trying their best to run this game well. And by the way, I was running this game with medium settings, so most of the things were set to medium. So yeah. Okay, so the next game that I had time to test here is Apex Legends, and for the most part I was staying above the 100 FPS marks. And Apex surprisingly is also seems to be a very CPU bound game, not compared to like Cyberpunk, which is extremely CPU bound. But for the most part I was staying above 100 FPS even in intense fights and a lot of things going on. I was staying above 100 FPS, so it was a pretty smooth experience. And for the settings that I was rocking in this game, I was rocking pretty much everything set to high. For something like texture streaming budget, I had to set it to like 6 because I mean I have 8 gigs of VRAM, so there's no need of maxing out the VRAM. I feel like that would hurt performance. So yeah, I think with the RX 600 you just have to make sure that you're not turning up settings that will gobble up all the 8 gigs of VRAM. And I think if you just optimize your game properly, or rather if you set your settings properly with whatever I've said in mind, you will have, or rather you will enjoy playing some of these video games at very good frame rates. So yeah, this were the games that I was able to test. And by the way, this PC goes for around 125,000 Kenya shillings to like 140-ish, so within that price range, depending on the case you end up choosing, depending on the RAM, the overall storage space. So yeah, if you're interested in purchasing this PC, be sure to visit our website esgaming.co.ke. Additionally, if you're in Nairobi City, we are located along Kimathi Street, room 405 on the 4th floor of Old Mutual Building. So yeah, see you in the next video.